Hi and welcome to my latest video, guys. I'm going to do this video very quickly. It won't drag on for ages because there's so many developments and updates in relation to the Michael Gaine case, and there's a huge development overnight where a man in his 50s has been arrested now for the murder of Michael Gaine. Now this is on the suspicion of murder, so he hasn't been formally charged. But he can be held up until 10:30 this evening, and then they'll have to decide if they can send a file forward from the DPP and arrest him on the charges of murder, or let him go pending further inquiries, I would imagine. So that's literally the latest at the moment. Now it's updating so quickly that by the time I post this video, at around 5:30 or 6 p.m. or whatever, it might have changed at that stage. So forgive me if I'm trying to stay up to date as quick as I can, because it is rapidly changing as I'm speaking. But apparently it all happened when they were putting slurry out onto the farm. Now this is another slurry pit. I don't know whether the Gardaí checked this slurry pit before in the initial investigation, or this is one that was sort of hidden, but they were emptying contents out onto the farm, and one of the machines they were using wasn't working properly. Something was stuck in it, and then they realized it was bone and stuff. So they've done some checks on that, and it has come back as human bones, but hasn't been confirmed it's Michael's remains. But a hearse did leave the property yesterday with some of Michael Gaine's remains, and obviously over time there might be more, but it's an awful tragedy. It's an awful story, actually, to think that somebody could do that to another human being. But we've seen down through all the years I've been doing this that there's a lot of sick people out there. So the person of interest, trying to figure out who this person is, they're in their 50s, it's a man, and this person had fled the area, had moved away from the area 2 weeks ago from their current accommodation, and they were picked up somewhere else. So, obviously in the comments you can't hide the fact that a lot of people are saying, oh, could it be the man living on the land in the derelict cottage? It has crossed my mind, and there's no evidence at the moment that I have to say that is the case. It's possible, it's very possible, but I don't know at this stage if there's a connection between the two. The person living on the land could be completely innocent, hasn't done anything, and isn't the person, or is the person. I don't know. But what does surprise me is that, like, if you think back to the days of Veronica Guerin, and you can argue whether or not you think she was naive or not or whatever, but she did go out and interview people. Now, was it wise to interview and write about drugs barons? I don't think so, really. That's something, like, it's just you're asking for trouble. But everyone has their own view on that. I just think that, where are the investigative journalists? Nicola Tallant, okay, she does a great job and all that, but she's only interested in talking about Mr. Flashy and the Kinahans, to be honest, and, like, she should be down on the farm. Like, I would have, if it was me and I was working for a publication like that, and I was an investigative journalist, weeks ago I would have been going onto that farm. Now, you don't want to be trespassing either, but you have every right to question the person living in the derelict cottage. Just have a general chat. How do you know Mike? How long have you known him? And are you as surprised as everybody else as to what happened? And what do you think happened to him? Stuff like that. Then go into the village and interview people in the village and ask them about how what they thought of Mike, Michael Gaine. How long have you known him, and what did you think? What do you think's happened and all that? Do you mind if I use some of your, do you mind if I use some of the recording on my video? This is who I work for, and introduce yourself, but have a camera crew there as well. Don't go on your own. But, like, that's what people should be doing. And if you think of Ian Huntley, only for Jeremy Thompson, former presenter with Sky News. This was back in the day when Sky News was, they had reporters like Martin Brunt and all who were on the ground interviewing people in Pride of Loose. But Ian Huntley, who'd killed Holly and Jessica, Jeremy Thompson, just by chance, total coincidence, like, that Ian Huntley decided to come out and have a chat. And Ian Huntley had all the black bags under his eyes. He'd been up all night, obviously. hiding the remains of Holly and Jessica, and it was just so much, and you could see, oh, this definitely someone's guilty. So why can't that be done here? That somebody can go out and just talk. You're not going out to accuse anyone. Just have a chat with people, and something might pop up there where, oh, I got a funny feeling there, or that question didn't seem to be answered correctly, or they don't want to talk at all, and then say, look to the Gardaí, maybe you should be looking there because this person seemed a bit suspicious. I'd have no problem if this channel took off in some way, where I was able to, if I had subscribers who funded it in some way, I'd have no problem getting petrol into the car and off I go around the country, because I think there's a sort of a niche in the market there for that, because it just does. Everyone just seems to be copying and pasting everything now, and it's almost like no one wants to get information about anything. It's all like, we'll just copy that there, get it from Reuters and put it in. But like, investigative journalism is sort of boots on the ground, getting into the village, finding out a little bit more about Mike and the people who knew him, and that just seems a bit strange. But one of the things that I've noticed, though, is I have to say, in the comments on the videos I've put up, to be fair to you all, you've all been very professional in how you've worded everything and been very respectful, and I really appreciate that. We've avoided the trolls, which is great, but you see a lot of them on TikTok and on X and all, and fake profiles putting up all sorts of stuff saying Janice is guilty. Oh, she was talking in the past tense. Very hurtful kind of things. And these people must be very sad in their own lives that they feel the need to just take out their anger and frustrations on other people. But look, the most important thing is that it looks like at this stage, Mike, his remains have been found in the most gruesome way, but somebody is responsible for it. And what led to it, I'm sure, will come out in time. Maybe we'll never know. But from cases that I've looked at over the years, when somebody like that disappears, it's always someone they know. And we have said in an earlier video, I did say it's definitely someone he knows. I mean, that's kind of obvious anyway. You don't need to be an Einstein to know that. It looks certainly like he knew the person. On a dispute, absolute dispute over something. Could be a dispute over money, could be a dispute over the land, could be a dispute about get off my land, and it escalated. Anything like that can cause these things to get out of hand. And if red flags were raised by detectives when they investigated the person of interest, a red flag would be that this person has been in a jail before, maybe not in this country, maybe in another country, maybe they've committed a crime, a serious crime before, or they were caught with gun possession. So red flags can be anything like that, and again they could be vulnerable too. So they have to obviously deal with this in a delicate way, but also a firm way too, because someone's lost their life in the most gruesome way. So at this moment, as I said, I'm not going to ramble on too long. At this moment, you'd have to hope that hopefully they charge this person and they have enough evidence to charge them. There could be CCTV and phone records, because they were all due to come back. Maybe some of that did come back and didn't add up with the alibis of some people, because they would have interviewed over 100 people, and they would have got dash cam footage. This person of interest might have said, oh, I was here at this particular time, and then the dash cam footage or the CCTV footage or the phone records proved otherwise. No, you weren't there. You were actually here. Why did you lie to us? I can't remember where I was. Well, no, in your first statement you told us you were here. And so that's what can lead to all these suspicions and raising it then to a suspect. So, a lot of people, again, on X, very critical of the Gardaí, and I'm not here to defend them. They can do that themselves. But, have to look over the years of Rachel O'Reilly. They were able to solve that. They were able to get Elaine O'Hara's killer, Graham O'Dwyer, behind bars. And a lot of it was on circumstantial evidence. Joe O'Reilly, circumstantial. But they did get them. You can't criticize. Like, it's very easy to come on here and criticize them. But people are getting so clever now in how to dispose of remains, that it's becoming harder and harder to try and crack these cases. So I think they're doing a pretty decent job. I wouldn't criticize them, because I wouldn't fancy it. I'd say it's tough, tough, especially with people, you just don't have enough evidence to charge them, and you're looking for the evidence. And then some people are saying, oh, the guards should have checked the slurry the first time. Sure, they checked it the first time, just wasn't there. Maybe it was put in afterwards. Maybe like weeks have passed. It's been nighttime. I don't know if they've guarded that place, but maybe someone had access to it. Someone who knew Mike had access to that. And maybe they left evidence there that puts them in the loop with this. But hopefully someone is charged with it, and Mike can be given back to his family for a proper burial. That would be great for them, because we have to think of them at the time. It must be awful stuff, really. It's a horror story, isn't it, really? And God, he went to the Centra, to White's in Centra, and got his phone credit and headed to the farm. And little did he know he was heading into the lion's den, And that's the thing with life. You never know what's around the corner. But hopefully someone's charged with it, and we wish the Gardaí the best of luck with it, and they can get it all solved. And if you have any information on the case, contact the Gardaí in Kenmare. And be very careful what you write on here in the comments. Obviously, I leave them open, but don't say any names or who you think it is or anything like that. Just let them deal with that. And I'm sure if someone is charged, we'll find out about that individual fairly soon anyway, and we'll be able to move on. But anyway, thanks for watching the video. And if you want to subscribe, great. When some people say, smash that like button. I'm not going to be saying that. Do what you want. And look, we'll talk to you soon. Have a great day. Bye.